Good morning and welcome to this morning's Available Grants and How to Win Them webinar, brought to you by Armagh City, Banbridge and Craigavon Council and delivered by Innovate NI. My name is Claire McGee and I'll be your host for today's webinar, and along with Barney Toole, we are the co-founders of Innovate NI and currently deliver both the grant application support and the Transform Your Business programmes on behalf of Council. But before we kick off, I'd like to introduce Councillor Declan McAlinden, Chair of the Economic and Regeneration Committee from Armagh, Banbridge and Craigavon Council, who has joined us this morning to welcome you all here.
Okay, Claire, thanks very much. Good morning, everyone, and thanks for joining us. On behalf of Armagh City, Banbridge and Craigavon Borough Council, it gives me great pleasure to welcome you all to this morning's webinar, Available Grants for Business and How to Win Them. This webinar is part of a series of webinars for the Mentoring Support Programme to local businesses applying for grant funding. The programme aims to provide businesses and entrepreneurs with the knowledge and skills needed to identify and successfully apply for grant assistance. New grants become available on an ongoing basis, and today Claire McGee and Barney Toole from Innovate NI will discuss grants and streams of funding that are currently available to local businesses and how to write a winning grant application. Again, I hope you find this morning's session useful, and thanks again. Thank you.
Thank you, Declan, for joining us and endorsing Council's commitment to the support of the growth of businesses in the borough. Shortly, I'm going to pass over to Barney Toole, who will give us an overview of the bespoke support available from Council to support businesses in applying for funds. And today we're shining a light on Intertrade Ireland and the wide range of supports and funds they currently offer to small businesses, ranging from exploring new cross-border markets, developing new products, processes and services, to becoming investor ready. And we're delighted that Grant Gilmore from Intertrade Ireland is with us this morning as well, who you'll hear from later on. Then following that, we're going to hear from a few local businesses on how and why they access support and the impact it has had on their business. And we'll finish off with an overview of other open grants, funding and supports currently available, and finish up with a Q&A session. And we aim to wrap up by 11:15. So without further ado, I'm going to pass you over to my colleague, Barney Toole.
Thanks very much, Claire, and welcome everybody. I'm just going to share my screen here, and hopefully you'll be able to see that. So as I said, we'll move that out of the way. So thanks, Claire and Declan, and good morning, everyone. So again, I'm delighted to see such a good turnout for this, our third in a short series of 4 webinars on available grants and how to win them. So as Claire says, my name is Barney, and along with Claire, we're the co-founders of Innovate NI, which is, we term ourselves an innovation house. We currently deliver both the Transform Your Business programme and the Grant Application Support programme for ABC Council. Now, so why us, you say? Well, over the last 20 years, we've secured funding through grants and tenders to the tune of over £11 million. So on the back of those experiences, and that's both our successes and our failures, because we learned a lot from our failures. In webinar 1 back in September, we introduced our 12 steps to success in writing grant application, which is a step-by-step guide to improving your chances of successfully securing that elusive grant. In webinar 2 at the end of November, we looked closely at a grant program which is soon to be launched by Invest NI, the Innovation Voucher Scheme, which actually launched yesterday. So this is quite appropriate that we're doing this today, and more about that grant later. But today we want to focus on the suite of business support programs from Intertrade Ireland, because they really are a great suite of programs. But first of all, I'd like to introduce the Grant Application Support Programme. Now, applying for a grant can certainly seem a very daunting task to many small business owners. You know, first of all, where to discover, about grants and where they're available, what information you need about the grant, to see if it matches your requirements, and what information you need to know about your business, because the grant is going to look for information about your business and how to write a successful grant application, most importantly of all. So the percentage success rates among applicants for grants can be quite low, and often it's as little as 20% or even less. And success depends upon the amount of funding available. Obviously, the more funding there is, the more people can get funding. The number of applicants, the fewer the number of applicants, the more of that number can get funded. But importantly, and let's not forget, the quality of the applications. ABC has recognized these issues and has established the Grant Application Support Programme to provide an independent advisor who can advise you on how to improve your winning percentages as you write your grant application. We won't write the application for you. You are the person that is best placed to do that. You know your business and your requirements, but we will ensure that you follow those 12 steps to success from webinar 1. The eligibility criteria for joining the programme are simple and straightforward. As you can see, you must be located within the ABC Council area and employ fewer than 50 people. And if you are a novice grant applicant or have previously been unsuccessful in grant application, then you are particularly welcome. We have a rolling registration on a first come, first served basis, depending upon the amount of support that each business requires. We have a limited number of hours available. So expression of interest form is available online, which you should be able to see now through the ABC Council website, and it should take less than 5 minutes to complete. It's mainly a tick box exercise, which helps us to understand your business and what grant you're currently applying for, along with some background information on your business. So if you're applying for a grant and would like some support, then get going. But we will endeavour to keep registration open until the 31st of May. But as I said, that depends upon demand. When the hours available are gone, they're gone, as quite often you hear in advertisements in shops. But remember that not all support needs to be financial. Many support programs provide invaluable advice and experience. But although the important thing to know is where that support is, whether it's a grant or whether it's a program, and hopefully these webinars will help. So we talked in our previous webinars about the website nibusinessinfo.com, and for us this is the source of information about business grants and support available in Northern Ireland. Later on we'll have a look at the website, but I know that today, for instance, on NI Business Info, there are 196 separate grant and support programs available to all sectors of business across Northern Ireland. Not all of them will be applicable to your business, but it just shows you that that's what's available at the minute. However, if you're interested in growing your business through expansion of your sales, by embracing digital technologies, by developing new products, or seeking seed corn investment, there is a support organisation who has developed what we think is a brilliant suite of support programs. Intertrade Ireland has created a portfolio of support for businesses on both sides of the border. So I'm delighted to be able to introduce Grant Gilmore to give a synopsis of their main programs. Grant is an experienced operations manager who has been with Intertrade Ireland for over 20 years. He's managed both the trade and the innovation programs, which is exactly what we're interested in, and currently has a portfolio responsibility for micro-business development and public tendering supports. And prior to joining the cross-border trade and business development body, he worked for a number of local authorities, managing their economic development services and the textile industry. So I'll just unshare my screen and over to you, Grant. You're very welcome.
Okay, well, thank you very much, Barney, and good morning to everyone. As Barney has said, he and I have been colleagues for a very long time through lots of different organisations, and in particular, I'm very pleased that the Council has taken on this service to assist companies to help them look at the whole plethora of grants that are available to companies, because from a practical perspective within Intertrade Ireland, we often see companies that will put pen to paper and put applications in without really thinking through very, very clearly as to what the opportunities are and what this grant is actually about. So it's great that the council has recognised this service and put some funding and support behind it to help companies in the ABC area to take advantage of their huge amount of grant opportunities that are available. Intertrade Ireland, as Barney has said, is the cross-border trade and business development body, and our focus is on helping companies do trade and innovation and business activity on a cross-border basis. So that's, you've got to bear that in mind for all the different grant and program funds that we have available to us. You'll see a picture there just of a quick snapshot of companies who have engaged with and been on the various programs that Intertrade Ireland has, right through sales, trade, innovation, and the funding programs. And this morning in particular, I'm going to focus in on 4 programs that I think that are really good, strong supports to help you take advantage of the sales opportunities that exist cross-border and also the innovation opportunities that exist there as well.
Sorry, Grant, can I just say, if you want to share your screen, you can't see it at the moment.
Okay, no problem.
Sorry about that.
That's okay, don't worry. That's us. Right, okay, right. Okay, so what I was saying there very briefly, that's a picture of just some of the companies who have been directly involved on our various programs with Intertrade Ireland. In terms of cross-border trade then and figures that we have, just want to put some context around that. So we have available data from the 2 HMRC and the CSO in Ireland about the amount and value of trade that exists. Obviously, this is pre-COVID and pre-Brexit, but in 2019, cross-border trade for both goods and services was just over £7 billion sterling, and it was split between North. So exports going from Northern Ireland into Ireland were about 4.5 billion, and then exports from Ireland into Northern Ireland about 2.6 billion. And you can see a breakdown there between the different goods and different services there. Of course, of Brexit, those figures actually increased and went up. There was a substantial amount of trade that would be coming in from GB and Europe that was then located on the island. So there is a massive opportunity there for companies to look at trading and sales opportunities in the other jurisdiction. In terms of the sales programs then, particularly sort of those hard-edged, how do you go about selling your good or selling your products into the other jurisdiction? The first real starting point that we have within Intertrade Ireland is a scheme called the Trade Accelerator Voucher. And essentially it does what it says on the tin. You know, it helps you at a very early stage look at what the potential is, and it's across a whole range of services, not only financial and business, but also logistical and regulatory, to sort of ask those questions and prove that there is a business opportunity there. We have up to £1,000 worth of support available to get professional advice to help you address all those key areas. Now, the bulk of what people apply for would be in the sales and the marketing, and also to test out their export readiness, you know, in terms of have they the capacity, have they the capability, and would they be able to successfully export their product or their service on a cross-border basis. But we'll also provide some support and assistance in around those financial or banking issues. Have a look at what particularly taxation issues, and particularly now with Brexit, in terms of customs and VAT, it's important to take account of that and make sure you're prepared for what potentially you could be presented with. Employment and getting staff is always a very, very serious issue for small companies. And particularly if you're employing someone on a cross-border basis, there are rules and regulations that you need to be aware of. So we'll also provide a little bit of help and guidance in and around that. And the final bit then is to be aware, particularly now that we're in Brexit, that there will be divergence among regulations. So it's important if your product needs standards or it has a certain set of regulations that you're aware, are they applicable on a cross-border basis? And if not, what you need to do to address that. So in terms of the eligibility criteria, who can actually apply for this grant? So it's a micro enterprise program. So that means really in practice, it's for less than 10 employees. So if you have less than 10 staff, then you're eligible for this. It's a 100% funded grant as well. So you won't have to actually provide any match funding for it, but you need to make sure that your turnover is less than 1.7 million and that you're in both the manufacturing or the tradable services sector. You'll also have to show that you have a trading history, a satisfactory trading history in your home market, and that you are able to actually have the staff and the resources to actually take advantage of the cross-border opportunities. You must make sure that you have less than 30% of your turnover would it be already got from a cross-border market. And so the reason for that is very simple in that if you're already doing a volume of trade on a cross-border basis, then you don't really need public funds because you've already effectively cracked that nut. So you need to just be careful in and around about that. And the final thing, just to be aware of with nearly all our programs, is make sure that you do not displace existing products in the target market area. So you've got to really show why your product is innovative and different from something that could already be provided in Cork or Waterford or Dublin or anywhere we're really effectively there. So that's it's a hurdle, but it's important that you're able to establish just what makes your product innovative and that you're not going to do damage to someone who's already operating in that cross-border market. So once you've done our Trade Accelerator voucher, you've established that there is a market for your product there. The next program that we have that you'd be eligible for is known as Elevate. Again, it's featured very much around the micro enterprise sector, so it's less than 10 employees. And what we're able to provide there is funding, so up to £5,000 sterling, or if you're on the Irish side of the border, up to 5,750 euros, to get part-time consultancy advice to help you actually put together a strong sales plan and take advantage of the opportunities there. You get to choose the advisor from a pool of about 130 to 140 specialist consultants that we have on board who have expertise in various sectors right across the board, from engineering, food, agriculture, retail, etc. there. So there's a good opportunity to choose someone who will suit your business, and you can get up to between 8 to 10 days of funding available there for that consultant to help you put together. Now, what essentially you're after here is either to assess both your in-house sales capability and skills. I mean, do you have the resources that you can take advantage of the cross-border sales opportunity? Are you ready to do it? I mean, is your business set up? Have you got the transport infrastructure? Have you got even the resource capacity within a business? One of the areas that is used an awful lot within Elevate is this identification of sales leads and prospects. So I would say about half of all Elevate projects, they spend the bulk of their time identifying sales leads, setting up those meetings, and then chasing down prospects in there. And it could be anything between 5 to maybe 100 different prospects that are found for you in the course of an Elevate project. We'll help you as well to develop your sales and marketing plan. So at least a couple of days are set aside to actually firm up on that. And then we'll give you some advice in terms of the design of your marketing materials. Some companies don't have them. Some companies are very well resourced in terms of that, but sometimes it just needs a little bit of a tweak or a general understanding of the various markets you're heading into, just to make sure that the materials that you're using are appropriate for that market. So in terms of the eligibility criteria, very similar to what we have for the Trade Accelerator voucher. You know, you need to first of all prove that you have less than 10 employees. You need to be in the either manufacturing or the tradable services sector. You need to have your annual turnover below a certain level there, and you need to have a satisfactory trading history in your home market. So what we would expect to see there is evidence of either your formal accounts or some trading statements there, just to actually prove that. And you need to show that you have the capacity to take on board an Elevate project and take advantage of it. And you need to make sure that you've not already participated on our Acumen program. And speaking of Acumen, let me just talk a little bit about that. So we've had sales and trade programs for micro enterprises, and we now have a program for companies that are slightly bigger, but also are looking to put a salaried salesperson, either in a full-time capacity or a part-time capacity, into your business. So could I direct you in the first instance to the Intertrade Ireland website, because it will lay out very clearly that you need to follow to take advantage of the Acumen program. Now, as Barney said in his presentation, we talked about having that intervention and that help and assistance to make sure you're taking advantage of the funding opportunities that are there. So the Acumen program is quite a hands-on program before you even put your application form in. The first thing to do is check the eligibility criteria and make sure that you are actually eligible. So in terms of your firm size, in terms of what you do, in terms of your turnover levels, will be the first thing. And then you make contact with Intertrade Ireland just as to express an interest in the actual program. If you do that, then you will be allocated what's known as an on-the-ground consultant support. So that person will be there to help you through the Acumen application process, and even on the back end, once the grant is awarded, you'll get help and guidance from that person there. So that on-the-ground consultant is a very important person. They'll guide you through what's known as an export diagnostic, which is 100% funded by Intertrade Ireland. Again, to have a look and see, are you ready to export, and what do you need to do to your business to adapt it to make sure that it can take advantage of the export opportunities that will come through the Acumen program. The application process, the OTG will help you and guide you through that. Now, they won't fill the actual form in, that will be up to you as a company. But they will be there as a sort of another pair of eyes to help you make sure that you answer the questions asked and try to avoid really putting in generic answers to questions. Remember at this stage as well, you'll need to submit your latest set of accounts just as proof that you're a trading entity, and to see what you're doing currently in your home market. So there's a formal assessment process that is then done. There's a panel that will meet every month within Intertrade Ireland to assess batches of applications. In fact, today is that day. So there are 12 12 Acumen applications up for assessment as we speak. And generally, once companies get to this stage, normally there's about a 75 to 80% pass rate on that. But again, that's because there's been quite a bit of intervention further back down the pipe to make sure eligibility criteria are there, and to help put together a good form to express what you're going to do during that. So if you get approved for it, then it's a 12-month program that's available. As I said, you've either got the full-time support, so it's a 50% grant up to £15,000 from our side. So you can employ someone at a gross salary of £30,000 and get half that paid for you by Intertrade Ireland through the Acumen program. Or you can go the part-time route and go for a part-time person. And there's also a couple of other options within there. You can go for a sales executive, you can go for an external person, you can go for a sales lead generation company there to help you in terms of your prospects and your leads. Again, it's a 50% grant, but there's £8,000 of a grant available, so you can go up to £16,000 of support available there. That on the ground consultant then stays, as I said, with the company through that, and can help them in terms of the recruitment of a salesperson. And then there's also sales workshops that are run on a regular basis throughout that program to help in terms of taking advantage of where the opportunities are. So that's principally on the sales side for Intertrade Ireland. Just to say that those programs, the Trade Accelerator Voucher, Elevate and Acumen, have been around for a very long time. You know, they're 25 to 30 years in existence. So they're almost, they do exactly as they say on the tin, and they've got a long track history of being successful and allowing companies to take advantage of the cross-border sales opportunities there. But just remember them, you need to focus in on what your cross-border opportunity is, and take advantage of the interventions and supports that exist to help you put together a good application form. If we turn now to another big program that Intertrade Ireland has, and that's known as the Innovation Boost program. And this is all about how companies are helped to actually bring on board new products or new processes or new services. And so it's all about how companies embed innovation and to take advantage of it. So the Innovation Boost program is one of those ones. Again, it's been around a very long time, and it provides a very big pot of funding is available to those companies who want to take advantage of it. It works really, it's like a three-stool approach to innovation. You have your company, so you're looking at improving your capability. You have your issue or problem that you're trying to address. And what you do is you identify an academic support, and the cross-border issue here is that you'll choose an academic in the other jurisdiction. So if you're based in the ABC area, you'll be looking to identify an academic institution in Ireland, whether it's one of the universities, whether it's one of the further education colleges, or one of the centres of excellence that they have there. So there's a wide range to pick from and choose from there. And you and the academic as a company will work very closely together to develop and scope out your project. And then if you're successful, you'll get grant funding to employ a graduate to take on and address that problem or issue that you have within your company. So this is quite a big intervention that we have here. There's a lot more money involved in it. It's up to £56,000. It's available. So there's a lot more that's involved in terms of helping companies through the actual process before you even get to putting an application in place. Just some of those sort of hard edge benefits that exist for someone who wants to take advantage of the Innovation Boost program. Over the past, we've proved it increases your business performance, it increases your capability, and it increases your bottom line. Well, So that's the sort of the core advantages of it. As I said, there's those funding packages are available. There's both a 12 and an 18-month variation of it, and the funding packages are dependent on that. And it's about also being able to attract and keep on board a high caliber graduate. So one of the spinouts from the Innovation Boost program is that roughly 80% of the graduates who take part in the program stay with the company. So there's almost that next cohort of staff coming in, very experienced, very skilled, and they can grow themselves through doing the actual Innovation Boost project. In terms of this steps then, so the first thing that is done again with a consultant would be to have a look and see your capability. So there's this process that we have. It's called Ideas to Invoice. It's a very simple process, but it really looks at what your company can do and how can it take the ideas that you have and make sure that they're commercially viable. We have a number of springboards during the Fusion project, which will take you through having a look at the barriers, having a look at your business case, and then making sure that the application you put in is actually a good one that stands a good chance of success. Again, if you're getting to an application stage and you're getting to the assessment panels for Innovation Boost, the chances of you being successful are actually pretty high. There's roughly an 85 to 90% chance of you being successful once you get to the application stage for this program. As I said, there's a slight difference here in terms of the length of the projects, and that will be sort of teased out as you go through the application process. So you can have an 18-month program there, but that's more focused on developing new products and new processes and whatever, and increasing your sales and entering into that new market. We have a 12-month version of it there, which is I suppose focused in about how you streamline and reduce your internal costs and looking at the efficiencies of, say, your operation procedure or your manufacturing there, and how that will affect your bottom line performance and your profitabilities. So there are differences, but generally they are teased out through the course of the application process. The eligibility criteria, well, you're going to be guided through this, but you need to be very, very clear on this. You've got to either be a manufacturing, a tradable services company, and you've got to be either indigenous to or located on the island of Ireland. That doesn't suit every company, but those are sort of the key criteria at the start of the program. You've got to at least have a 2-year trading history. Okay, so you've got to be financially viable, and you've got to have your employee numbers between 5 and 249. Okay, now we very rarely get the larger companies onto it. So the average size of an Innovation Boost company is about 20 to 25. But we do have the facility to take on larger companies there and indeed smaller companies. But it's really about the financial viability that's important at that check there. Okay, so again, just to emphasize, there is a lot of intervention before you even get to putting an application there, and it's about making sure that there's a viable project there, and about not wasting people's time. If you're not going to be eligible for it, we will tell you very quickly that you're not going to be eligible for it. But again, you can go to the Intertrade Ireland website, you can have a look and see about that. And if you have any doubts, then you can phone in to the innovation team within Intertrade and you have a chat about that, and you can maybe get one of our consultants to come out and have a look at things on site as well. Suppose then, once you get to the tail end of the assessment process, once you have your application in, you'll have to be aware that there will be an independent technical assessment of it just to prove that it is viable. There's an independent financial assessment of your company, and we also seek some comments from either InvestNI or Enterprise Ireland, or if you're connected to any other economic development agency, and that's all builds the business case for the application into Intertrade Ireland. So that's really a very quick tour around 4 of the key programs that Intertrade Ireland has in terms of being able to provide financial assistance. So there's a good lump. There are 3 that deal with the sales on the trade side, and then there's the innovation boost that deals with how you go about embedding innovation and bringing on new products and processes and services. So I could probably talk for another half hour in terms of what Intertrade Ireland does, but I think it's at this stage it's probably better if we introduce and bring on the companies, and you can hear sort of practically from the horse's mouth from these companies how they went about engaging with the Intertrade Ireland programs and any of the issues or problems or barriers that they had, and then also what their experience of doing the actual project and what was the financial and the business benefit to it. So if I hand over to Claire, she can introduce the panel.
Thanks, Grant, for that. And you're right, there is so much support available, and it's always great. It's always better to hear it directly from the horse's mouth and from businesses who've been there, done it, and worn the t-shirt. So I'm delighted to have with us this morning Sam Bell, Creative Director and owner of Thought Collective, Bridget Dugan, BD Consultancy, and she's a consultant and she mentors a lot of clients through Intertrade Ireland programs, but today she's here specifically to represent Doherty Wood Shavings, and Niall McCartan, MD and owner of Lockview Timber based in Guildford. So I'm delighted to have you with us this morning. And just first up, I think I'll probably invite Sam. Just Sam, if you would like to tell us a bit about what Thought Collective does, and also the support that you've received through Intertrade Ireland.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks very much for inviting us on today. That's great. Thought Collective is a strategic branding agency, and we help our clients pinpoint what the story is for their organization or their product, and then we apply that across all of the different touchstones of their marketing and sales pipeline. So that could be in a copywriting capacity, where we're developing the key propositions and some of their top level sales messages. Obviously the visual brand packaging and print material, but unusually for a creative agency, we also have our own dedicated development team in-house, which allows us to do a full end-to-end service where the brand is consistently applied across all digital assets, whether that be a website, an e-commerce facility, or a bespoke app. So we're kind of an interesting mix of designers and developers, which is quite nice. So that's sort of a bit of a sort of a quick summary of the company. Do you want me to outline, Claire?
Wasn't it the Elevate support, Sam?
It was the Elevate support, and it was very specific because prior to being on Elevate, about somewhere around 5 to 8% of our turnover would have come from Ireland, from the Republic of Ireland, and we wanted to increase that towards 30%. That was a very specific goal. We already had a small foothold with some clients, and we wanted to develop that. So that was the key. That was our core goal, as it were. Yeah.
And how easy was the process to access the Elevate support for Thought Collective?
Yeah, I have to say, like I had to go back. I wanted to go back over, all of the emails and various things, through the process, just to refresh myself about exactly how things were. From memory, it was very smooth, and looking back over the communication, that's correct. It was very smooth. We didn't really. Things worked quite easily at all points. There were no real disruptions for us at all.
What was the benefits of Elevate for the business?
Yeah, this was really interesting. We had actually worked with the mentor that we were hooked up with on the Elevate program before. So for us, that was quite a nice situation to be in. But I think even if that hadn't have been the case, the program still would have been incredibly beneficial to us. So I think we put a lot into Elevate, and that's obviously important. You're only going to get out of any program what you put into it. So for us, it was working very closely with the mentor that we were appointed with, and our goal was to get some very specific leads for two particular target audiences. So the food and drinks sector for packaging and branding, and then also third sector organizations for some of the digital products that we deliver. So that was our we could have gone wider than that, but we wanted to stay focused so that we were able to measure things more effectively, basically.
And the all important question, the impact on the bottom line. Sam, did you see, was there an impact? Can you measure that? Not, what has that been like?
Yeah, this is really interesting one. So this was one of the things that I went back over yesterday to make sure that I was getting this absolutely right. Now, we were on the program in 2019 when everybody was beautifully oblivious to the storm that was about to hit. So I think what's interesting is these figures are reflective of what happened in 2020 when everything shut down, which makes them look even better than they actually are. Half of our focus was in the food and drink sector. That also included restaurants. That side of things effectively shut down in 2020, so we weren't able to follow through in that. But the digital work that we were able to do for all of our clients that side of things actually accelerated for us as a company, which was useful. So our turnover actually increased. It's increased 25% since we went on the program. But our specific target that won't completely be to do with the Elevate program. There were other reasons for that as well. But our revenue from the Republic went up to just under 25%. So we nearly hit our target. And that was in part to do with the pandemic, because we were actually able to offer digital services that were more useful, during that time. So we used the contacts that we had developed on the Elevate, but we had to switch slightly in terms of the direction that we were going with.
Brilliant. And just bear with us. I'm just going to bring Bridget Dugan into the conversation. Bridget, you've had vast experience working with clients to access and to deliver Intertrade Ireland programs. And in particular today, we're interested in hearing about Doherty Woodshavens and their experience of the Acumen program.
That's correct, Claire. First of all, thank you for asking me to join you today. Yes, my client company, Doherty Woodshavens, is based in County Antrim, a family-owned business who specialise in the manufacture of wood pellets. They have a sawdust product and wood shavings, but in early 2019, they saw an opportunity to become more innovative and use their sawdust. So they worked on an R&D project and developed a product called Subline, where they added a lime product to their sawdust, and they worked with the universities and done testings, and they saw that this was a product very much geared towards the agricultural sector for bedding animals, especially dairy cows. So the company saw an opportunity that this was a new innovative product that they could take to market. And the family initially was set up by the parents, but they brought on board two of the sons who maybe saw the bigger picture within the company and were more creative and innovative. So that's really the starting point. From that, how did they get on to Acumen? Well, in 2019, they decided to participate at the National Ploughing Show in Southern Ireland, where again, that was really like a test of the product in the ROI marketplace. So at that show, they got a number of leads from dairy farmers. They came back, but they didn't have the resources in-house to develop the sales leads in the ROI market. And that's how they tapped into Acumen. And with the support of Intertrade Ireland, they got on the programme, and it's worked very well for them, because again, they didn't have a sales team. They were still a small company with less than 10 employees at that stage. So that's how they participated in Acumen. And without the team in Intertrade Ireland, you know, they got the support. There's the hand holding there initially, and it's worked very well for them.
Sam talked earlier, you know, about an Elevate. They were able to access the support of a mentor, and he had already experience with that mentor, so they were able to bring that mentor, you know, along with them onto the Elevate process. How important is it to get the right placement, and how much control does the business have in choosing the placement or a mentor on the Acumen programme?
The directors in Doherty Woodshaven had identified that they believed they needed a placement that maybe had expertise in the agricultural sector, because that was the sector they were going after. So again, with the help and support of the Intertrade team, they got CVs through, and they participated in Acumen in June 2020. So we were in lockdown at that stage. So Owen, the managing director, worked with Intertrade Ireland, and they completed the selection and interview process over Zoom. And he was very lucky. He got a good candidate from County Westmeath, who was really able to hit the ground running, even with COVID. But that farming sector wasn't in shutdown. So he was able, and the employee is still with the company. The Acumen programme ended in May 21. So the company has kept the placement on board and is now a full member of staff within the team. So again, the selection process, the company was able to undertake the interviews and be involved in the selection process as if you were going to employ a candidate on the company's own merit. But again, the support was there through Intertrade Ireland as well.
The company's very much in the driving seat and has control, you know, so much control around, you know, who it is that they get to work with them moving forward. So then, you know, following on from that and post their Acumen support, Bridget, have they seen a significant, you know, have they seen an impact on their bottom line, or what, you know, what was the benefits to them of being on the Acumen programme?
Well, the benefits was the company were able to grow their sales in the ROI marketplace. They were able to build the company brand awareness in the marketplace. They were able to build relationships and a better understanding of doing business in the ROI. But the advantage for the company was they definitely grew sales. Like over the last 2 years, companies had an increase of 600,000 in sales, which they are on that growth phase now. They're going for their next phase of growth, and their sales in the ROI market around the 40% mark now. And they have plans now in 2022 for their next phase of growth. So it definitely has benefited the company, definitely.
Really interesting to see how a fresh set of eyes, you know, bringing on their sons has kind of changed the direction of the business as well, which is good to, you know, good to see local businesses innovating and growing at that pace. So just finally, I'm going to invite Niall McCartan into the conversation. Niall is the MD of Lockview Timber in Guildford. You're very welcome, Niall. Thanks for joining us this morning.
Thank you very much for inviting me.
So Niall, if you just want to tell us a bit about what Lockview Timber do.
Okay, Lockview Timber, we're a joinery manufacturing company, and we manufacture mainly internal and external door sets, both fire door sets and security door sets, along with sort of other additional products to go with those. supplying into sectors such as large residential schemes, healthcare, education, commercial projects such as offices, nursing homes, that type of thing. Our main market now, we have a presence in NI. Our main market now would be the Republic of Ireland, and we have a presence in the mainland GB as well.
Great. And Niall, through the Intertrade Ireland suite of programs, you participated on Fusion, which is now kind of known as Innovation Boost. Can you tell us a bit about that experience?
The Fusion project, it was something that probably gave Lockview an opportunity. We had thought for quite a period of time about a new range that we wanted to develop and improving the certification around our current ranges. And with the taking on the Fusion project, it sort of allowed us to connect with both an academic institution, industry expertise, bring on a graduate who was going to be specific to that role. It's something we had often thought about, but as in most small businesses, the day-to-day running of the business takes precedence, and things like that get shifted to the side and not forgot about, but just left behind. So this sort of gave us focus, and probably the first time we actually employed somebody to do a specific role like that wasn't involved in the day-to-day run of the business. Again, the academic influence as well, and even the academic that we had brought on, a guy called John Spillane from Limerick University, had actually quite a bit of industry knowledge, which was specific to us, and that was extremely beneficial.
Through the Fusion program, you know, and the certification and the new product lines, did you gain any other benefits from the program?
What we probably did, the graduate we put on, I mean, the one thing I'll say, it is critical that the person you bring into the business is the right person. I know we had talked previously about it. We sort of had full control in terms of, yes, Intertrade Ireland were involved in the application process or involved in the interview process as such, but it was our final call. We probably were very lucky in that we got an extremely good graduate. Came in, was very good at the project he was doing, but as part of that and as that developed, he also researched and started to develop a new computerized management system within the business that incorporated the new products that we were going to bring online, sort of helped through the office side of the admin side of the business, and also directly through into manufacture. So in terms of efficiency, there was massive gains through that, and that's still an ongoing process at the moment.
So Niall, following the Fusion and participation on that, how do you feel about innovation now?
It's something we always would have looked at, always would have liked to have been an innovative company. But as I said previously, it's one of the things when you get busy, especially with smaller companies, you're either restricted through finances or you're restricted through simply time that you're trying to service your customer, service the business. Probably through doing this, it has opened our eyes to how critical innovation is in terms of growing the business. We probably have moved 5 years forward by doing the program from where we would have been without it. And as part of that, I suppose, continuing on with the innovation, we have signed up with a knowledge transfer partnership with Salford University to develop a completely new product to ourselves that it's a 3-year project, and we hope to be launching into the market. And in addition to that, we have also been lucky enough to sign up with Intertrade Ireland again as part of their impact program. Now that both of those projects, actually, we have shifted them back probably towards the end of this year, and that's probably the result of the amount of new business we have taken on after the launch of the new products through the innovation project.
Yeah, it all sounds really interesting, Niall, and that kind of taking the first step to access support kind of puts you on a trajectory of kind of further opportunities, further support, more collaboration. for your business to help it to grow, develop, and to stay innovative. And just for now, I'm just going to bring everybody kind of back on to onto the panel here. And I just wanted to kind of open it up, and whoever wants to take the question, or if a few of you want to discuss the question. Many businesses are put off grants and programs by the additional administrative burden, or the perceived additional administrative burden. How did you find that aspect of the process, and what would your thoughts be, or your recommendations for any businesses who are kind of sitting on the verge of saying, I do want to apply for grant support and access grant and funding support, but I just don't think it's worth more. It's more hassle than it's worth, type thing?
Yeah, I would come in there. That last comment is exactly how we would have thought. Sometimes dealing with government bodies, it is more hassle than it's worth, and that's the view. When we applied originally, there wasn't the assistance that you do have now to help you with the access program, but there was a bit of work initially to get the application in. But we found once we had that done and we were appointed, the graduate that came in actually took that workload of admin, done all that, and actually almost reduced the amount of admin that we had to do. So it's sort of self-funding or self-driving once you do get that person in to do the work.
Can I just come in there?
Yeah.
Well, from a business consultancy point of view, and I know a number of our small SMEs maybe don't have the resources in-house, but to apply for any funding, and especially as Grant mentioned for Intertrade Ireland's funding, you need to have your accounts up to date. And that's like, if you're applying for Elevate or Acumen, you need your last year's accounts up to date, or if they're out of date, you need your 6 months management accounts. So any recommendation I would have for any of our SMEs to get your financials in order, because if you're going to apply for any sort of funding, whether it's through any of the resources that's available through Intertrade Ireland or Invest NI, or even going to your bank looking for additional funding, the key is that you have your accounts up to date.
That's a good point, Bridget, because sometimes that's the last tick box whenever you're going to submit an application, and it could mean you submitting it when the application's open or closed. Sometimes it's the last thing that you're putting together when you're sending off the application, and then it can become too late. So that's a good point.
Yeah. But even more so, taking funding out of the equation, it's even for business owners to know how their business is actually performing. Are they making the profit, or, it's getting that up-to-date information if they have issues or challenges in their business, that they can address it there and then, rather than waiting 12 months or maybe 18 months to get a set of accounts from an accountant. And then at that stage, well, God, we haven't made any money, and then it's starting to address it, because all funders today will look for financial information.
And thanks, Bridget. I've got a quick question for Grant that keeps coming up through the chat and also through the Q&A. What is Intertrade Ireland's definition of a tradable service?
Okay, so for us, really, essentially, a tradable service needs to be one that can be taken over a border. So if it was a service that just sat simply in, say, Northern Ireland and wanted to attract Irish people to it, that wouldn't be for us a cross-border tradable service. The service would have to be able to go across the border there. Now we can obviously discuss that in more detail. And that will be directly with Intertrade Ireland staff through the Elevate and TAVs, but we have the on-the-ground consultants can get into more detail on both the Acumen and the Innovation Boost programs there. But that's essentially it. As I said at the very start, think about taking your business across a border is what Intertrade Ireland is all about. If it simply sits in one jurisdiction and tries to draw in some customers from it, that's not going to work. And also for some of the other programs, the bigger programs, there will be ineligible sectors I know, for instance, in Innovation Boost, agriculture, hospitality, professional services aren't eligible, but it's very much up front. It says on the pages what the eligibility criteria are. And I think it would be fair to say, from my experience of Intertrade Ireland systems as opposed to others, is that ours are pretty admin light. If you're not going to be eligible, we'll tell you very quickly you're not going to be eligible, so you're not be wasting your time.
Great. And just to finish off, and I mean, Grant, if you can stay with us for the Q&A session at the end, it's just I'm conscious that our businesses on here are really interested to hear from local businesses as well. So I just want to quickly ask Bridget, Sam and Niall if they can just share like one top tip with the audience about applying for funding, or an observation or anything that they would like to just finish off on. So we'll go to Sam first.
Yeah, I'll just back up what Bridget said and take it a little bit further. So we have now a spreadsheet where we keep, which we would never have had before. We keep a spreadsheet of all top level information that is required on a number of different services. So whenever I was preparing for today, I was able to go in and very clearly look what was our percentage of turnover from in the Republic of Ireland in 2019 versus this year, and we update that at the same time that we get our annual accounts done. So we'll actually just very quickly, while we're doing our books and our accounts at the end of the year, we'll do a quick scan and a report on where the work's coming from, and then we update our figures. And it just means you're not scrambling for stuff. So if you have almost an action pack of information, we have found that to be very, very useful, along with, as Bridget said, the accounts themselves.
Great, thanks, Sam. Niall?
Probably the main thing I would take out of it, for anybody applying on the Innovation Boost, is the quality of the graduate, the person that you're bringing in. That is critical to the project, that you bring in somebody, that is the right level. And if for some reason a month in you realize it's not right, change it at that point, because there's still plenty of time. And once you have that person in, it's probably a big change in culture, but you need to give that person the time to do the role they're doing and not be involved in the business as such, in terms of running the business. And I think the benefits of that over time will be easily seen.
Brilliant, thank you. And finally, Bridget, any last words?
Well, from the Acumen point of view, and again, maybe reiterate what Niall has said there, when you bring a placement student in or a candidate through the Acumen programme, my key recommendations is, the business owner, directors, line manager, communicate with that person, sit down, do your performance review with them, set out your goals, your visions, your targets. And that's important, because that'll make the difference of getting the results that you're looking to achieve. And from an overall perspective, from a funding point of view, what I would be saying, and I say this day and daily to the businesses that I'm working with, don't be afraid to check for funding. There is opportunities for funding out there, but if you don't ask the questions, you'll never know. Every company won't fit all the funding that's out there, but there is funding opportunities out there for businesses in Northern Ireland through Intertrade Ireland, as Grant has outlined clearly this morning. There's various programs through Intertrade Ireland, and I would be encouraging all the businesses to tap into those support mechanisms that's out there. And like there is others support available as well for companies.
Thank you. And just kind of to sign off on that piece, Bridget, Armagh and Bridge and Craigavon Council do have their grant application support programme, which is currently open. That's what we're here talking about today. So do get your expression of interest form in if you need any support in someone reviewing your application, or maybe helping you identify potential funds for you to apply for. And on that note, I'm going to say a huge thank you to our panelists, Bridget, Niall and Sam. Grant's going to stay with us to the Q&A at the end, but I really want to thank it's comes to life a lot better when you hear it from the local company. So really thank you guys for joining us. And I'm going to pass over now to Barney to tell us all about what grants are currently available. Thank you.
Okay, thanks everybody. Sam, Bridget and Niall, and Grant, if you hang on with us for another 10 minutes, that would be great. I'm just going to share my screen again. And hopefully you can see that, yeah. So as Bridget said there, and as we've been saying, there are a lot of grants out there, but how do you find the information? So a good source of business support and grant information is through your local council e-newsletter. So I would urge you to subscribe to that, to register. It's, again, when we're sending out the information on this presentation, there is a link which will take you directly into that. Very, very simple. Just fill in your name and address, your email, and then every week you will get a newsletter from the council, from the business development department, and any new grants that are available, they will be on that newsletter. Now, for Northern Ireland specific grants, the best source of information that we have is nibusinessinfo.com, and we talked about this in the previous two presentations. But again, just to quickly reiterate for those of you who haven't, it's a very comprehensive database online, very, very easy to navigate. And as I said earlier, there's 196 current business schemes available to Northern Ireland. Grant Gilmore gave us several examples from Intertrade Ireland support today, and all that have seemed rather daunting to take in, but Northern Ireland Business Info does make that a very simple process. So if we just go down to the bottom of the online page and select support organisations, you can see there are dozens of them there providing support. And if we click on Intertrade Ireland, we can see that it has got 8 business schemes registered. So everything from the eMERGE programme, obviously some of these Grant hasn't talked about today, Brexit vouchers, seed corn readiness, and there's the Acumen programme that we talked about. So if I simply click on that, then NI Business Info will give us a lot of information, more in depth on the eligibility, what the programme does, what the benefits include. And indeed, it even gives a link down here to the Intertrade website and the Acumen programme itself. So you can find out more information, and indeed, you can go right down to the bottom and make your initial application. So there's the application form. You fill that in, bang it off, and that's as simple as it is to get yourself registered, your interest registered in the application. So, however, there are literally thousands of grants available. If you're in the rural areas or you're involved in agriculture, DAERA, the Department of Agriculture, Enterprise and Rural Development, launched their funding hub, which gives information on all of their programs. So if you click on that, then that will take you into the current opportunities available under the DAERA grant fund. So finding this information is not that difficult to do. But having said that, there are literally thousands of grants available out there. And, for small businesses, large businesses, social enterprises, charities, you name it. So it's not surprising that finding your way through that maze can be time consuming, but there are shortcuts. Obviously, NI Business Info was one of them, but there are subscription services available, for instance, Grants Online or Grant Finder, where you can pay a certain amount of money to have a search facility for the thousands of grant support programs that are available out there. So for instance, under Government UK, which is a free one, that's where all of the COVID grants were available. And you can search through. So under Northern Ireland, there are 17 UK-wide programs available, one of which we'll look at in a minute, the Gigabit Broadband Voucher Scheme. So again, we'll be able to help you, navigate these systems through our grant application support program. So I know we're running out of time very quickly. So there are a lot of grants open currently available to businesses in Northern Ireland. We just opened up a few of them here. Innovation vouchers is one that we talked about in depth at the last event. Interestingly, it opened yesterday and it closes at 3 p.m. on Friday, the 11th of September. And we talked very much backing up what Sam said there at the last presentation. We talked about knowing what's available, knowing what's going to be asked for on your application and having that information already correlated. A couple of interesting people often ask, is there just pure grant funding? So these ones are pure grant funding. TechStart provides up to £10,000 for you to engage with somebody to develop a new product or a new preview process or get testing or certification done on a new product. That's open to all eligible SMEs. It's currently open and shuts on the 1st of March. There's a second stage proof of concept fund called Concept Plus, and it will provide grants of up to £35,000. And again, it closes on the 26th of April, so it's a bit longer. And these are open to all eligible SMEs. And again, if you click through on these links, it will take you directly to the proof of concept grant funds, and then you can click through from NI Business Info down to the various pieces of information that are required. I mentioned earlier the Gigabit Broadband Voucher Scheme. It's open and it gives you, if you're a rural-based business and you really want to get broadband, fibre broadband right to your premises, this voucher will give you £3,500. You don't get it, it goes directly to the provider. But again, on that site, there's the information on how to get a grant. Help to Grow Digital, those of you who are looking at buying digital accounting software or CRM software, or shortly in the future, e-commerce software. There, if you go to the Help to Grow Digital program, there's a 50% grant towards the cost of buying approved software up to a grant of £5,000. And to further on from the TechStart grant, there's a female founders funding opportunity. If you're a female entrepreneur out there, either starting off in business or have been in business for up to 2 years, then there is a grant to support if you have an innovative new product or innovative new market that you want to get at, a grant of up to £35,000. And again, it's an online application. It's very, very simple. Again, the links are on here, but if we look at the application form, we can see, if I just can bring it over, it's a very simple primary application focus. You know, what is your business do? What do you want to do with the grant? Who's your customers? And again, you know, what they're looking at is, you know, give us your financial background to the business. So they're all very straightforward to access. And again, these are all the types of things that we can assist you with in making sure that you get the information correct. And finally, there are other forms of funding out there, not necessarily in grant form, but there are soft loans. If you have a difficulty going to the bank to get funding, then either the British Business Bank Startup Loan, which is run through Enterprise Northern Ireland, or the Northern Ireland Small Business Loan Fund through InvestNI and Ulster Community Finance, give unsecured loans up to £100,000 at a fixed rate of 6% over up to 5 years. And interestingly, they also provide free mentoring. And finally, the ones that I think for those of you who are interested in further funding into your business, consider the Business Angels Network run by Halo. And again, you know, bear in mind that you will be selling part of your business for the investment, but you're also going to benefit from your investors' business knowledge and experience. So I know that was a very quick run through, but we do have just a reminder that the innovation vouchers are open and will close in 17 days time. So please make sure you have an application for that. Our application support program is available. And again, there's an expression of interest form online. This information will be sent out to you. And again, we've got Transform. We will also send you a lot of useful contacts so you can flick directly into those. We're running a little bit behind time. So thank you. I know it was a very rushed process, but if there are any questions that have come through, Claire will be more than happy to take them.
We have a few questions specifically for Grant around the Elevate. If you're already selling cross-border, i.e. over 30%, but are taking on a new product range in a different field than your established products, are you still eligible for support?
My advice to you would be, if you're already doing that, then you should push on to Acumen and forget about Elevate. Yeah. And take that on. It's a much bigger pot of funding. It's a much bigger support program. You know, you've already cracked the cross-border nut as such. So my advice would be, have a go at Acumen.
And I'll open this one out to whoever wants to answer it. If you're a small business and are interested in employing a digital marketing lead, is there help with that type of role, and which initiative? I suppose initially the answer to that question would be, it would depend on your eligibility, the size of the business, what supports are available. Barney, have you anything?
I mean, to get an employment grant, then you generally need to be an Invest in I client. There are a lot of, for instance, council are opening up a new digital transformation program in February, which may be able to provide you with support in terms of digital marketing and digital marketing development. We do run a small digital transformation program, which will look at your business to identify, but I think the answer is that there are a lot of supports out there. We really need a little bit more information on what it is that you're looking to do.
And then a question then on clarification about, are the grants only available if you're generating sales in the Republic of Ireland? And Grant, I think that's aimed at you based on, you talked about eligibility criteria, and that is one of Intertrade's eligibility criteria, that it's an all island.
It is. Well, it's cross-border. Yeah. Yeah. So you'd have to have that as the whole center of your application, taking your either product or your service or whatever across the border. Yeah.
And you mentioned webinars 1 and 2. Unfortunately, I missed them. Can I get a copy?
Yes, both webinars and this one were recorded and are available on the council website. And in the second last slide there is a direct link which will take you directly to them. We will also send you out a copy of this slide with all the ability to access all the addresses.
And also this recording will be available on Council's website over the coming days, so keep a watchful eye there, but we'll also share the link on the post-event details, and we'll also share a copy of Grant's slides as well. So we are slightly over time, but that just brings us to the end of the session. Really want to take the opportunity to thank everybody for attending and get your expression of interest forms into the grant assistance program through Council. And also, if you have any further queries or questions in relation to any of the supports offered through Intertrade Ireland, I'm sure Grant will be delighted to talk with you and take you through those. Okay, so we will, without further ado, let you get on with the rest of your Tuesday. So just left for me to say, have a nice day and thank you for joining us.